Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
The Wisconsin Werewolf Files. The Beast of Bray Road is an alleged werewolf-type being that stalked the cornfields of southeast Wisconsin, around Elkhorn and DeLavin. In the 90s, many of the sightings were reported to the county animal control officer, Officer Fredrickson. In fact, had a file on werewolf sightings, and this is what I find more interesting than anything, as law enforcement felt the need to document such a thing. The first event recorded in his werewolf file was a 1989 report by a woman named Indrizzi, the young manager of a local lounge, who stated that she distinctly saw a werewolf, elbows facing up, gripping roadkill with long, sharp claws. It was not larger than an average man, 5 feet 7, maybe 150 pounds. It was brownish gray, and its eyes reflected in her headlights as it watched her drive by. She reported that her first impression was that she was seeing something supernatural, satanic, and straight out of hell. She claims that when she reported her sight to County Animal Control Officer Fredrickson, books flew off her shelves as if they were thrown. Officer Fredrickson did indicate that something unusual occurred when he met with Indrizzi, but that is as specific as he chose to be in his report. In 1990, a group of 13-year-old sledders had a menacing encounter with the creature. Near dusk, they saw what they thought was a big dog, until it stood up. The incident was reported by one of the sledders' mothers, Karen. She said that the kids were terrified. They saw a creature with silver-tipped brown fur. It had a face like a coyote, but its legs were proportionally too large to be a dog, coyote, or wolf. It watched the children momentarily, then gave chase, but retreated into a cornfield once the kids had ran about half a mile. It ran like a dog, but with bigger bounds. Halloween, 1991. 30-year-old mother of two, Doris Gibson, was driving on a highway near the supposed stomping grounds of the canine inclined creature, when suddenly something bumped and rolled under her right tires. She pulled over to inspect the damage on her vehicle and identify just what she had struck, as she didn't see anything when the collision occurred. As soon as she exited her car, she saw something massive and brown rising off the ground that began to move toward her at an alarming rate of speed. Barely out of her vehicle, she jumped back in and floored it, straight to the police department, the Walworth County Police Department, as if standard operating procedure, kindly directed her to Animal Control Officer Fredrickson of Walworth Co. Animal Control. She reported that the animal was bigger than any animal she was familiar with. She saw long, brown, straight hair, a massive heaving chest. She heard the pounding of heavy feet moving quickly toward her. That same year, an anonymous couple reported seeing a dark figure lit up in the wood line by their headlights as they approached their home. The figure's eyes were about 7 feet off the ground, glowed gold, and were too far apart to be a cow. They only saw it for a second, but they both found it significantly frightening. When they got home, they joked about not letting their 90-pound Doberman out. But when they did, he immediately wanted to come back inside. And the backyard smells like rotting meat. This couple also notes that in the 60s, a creature called the Eddie was reported to be killing game and pets from the nearby Kettle Moraine Forest System. The then director of the Lakeland Animal Shelter, a man named Martin Boehner, described unusual tracks found near Potter's Mill, near Bray Road. Photos of the tracks were taken, although no known copies survive. The Lakeland Animal Shelter also had a report from a Burger King employee seeing a large creature sprinting across a road. The witness stated they could not believe how fast it ran or how much power it had. Then in 1992, a teenager named Tom Brichta reported that he saw the creature twice while driving to a campground near Bray Road on Highway 6. It was foggy that night, and he thought he'd clipped a mailbox, so he put the car in reverse, only to have a long odd-shaped arm reach at him through his open window. He said its belly was at the top of the car, so he never saw its face, but made out thick nails and fuzzy feet before he sped off. Brichta reported the incident to Lieutenant Lentz, a Jefferson County police officer. Lentz notes that 30 minutes after Brichta's encounter, a truck drove into a ditch due to something crossing the road at an apparently inopportune time. Dispatch found no trace of Brichta's encounter, or the truck driver's creature, though the incidents took place 7 miles and 30 minutes apart. If it were the same creature, it must have been running about 14 miles per hour in a straight shot down the road, so they're presumably and plausibly related. Brichta had a second sighting on the same highway 2 months later, in October of '92. He said he saw shoulders and a head sticking out of 6 feet tall corn and described it as a dog-like, but very muscular. He also claimed the creature snickered at him and had the attitude of a person window shopping. In 1993, an anonymous man living in Delevan, relatively near Bray Road, reported that in 1964, between midnight and 1 a.m., he saw a 7 to 8 feet tall, 500-pound, man-type thing running parallel to the road he was driving along, keeping pace. He said it ran about 300 yards and easily leaped a 5-foot fence. Delevan said it was running on 2 legs, swinging its arms. Scared the devil out of me. He also noted that it leaned forward as it ran, and mentioned that it was his opinion that if a man maybe could jump the fence, but probably would roll over the fence, but the creature he saw jumped it. He was adamant that what he saw was not a human being, but something like it. Moving on from the werewolf case files. 8 years after Delevan's '64 sighting of a man-type thing, something seemingly similar occurred quite nearby. In 1972, a panicked Delevan woman called Department of Natural Resources agent David Jetson. She said she saw a large ape-like creature walking on her farm. Agent Jetson came to the Delevan property and found no trace, though he found the woman sincere. A couple weeks later, the woman called again. This time she was hysterical. She said that the creature rattled the screen door on her front porch and left a gash above the door, over 7 feet off the ground. In the morning, she found one of her stabled horses slashed. Department of Natural Resources agent Jetson returned. He found inconclusive tracks in the partially frozen ground. He did not find the horse's wound consistent with self-inflicted injuries, which can happen with improperly stabled horses. He had no official explanation, though again, he found the witness completely sincere. The woman sold her property not long after and moved in with her sister in Milwaukee. The Department of Natural Resources officer also noted that the anonymous Delevan woman had hunted her whole life and was familiar with the local game. It was his opinion that she was not experiencing bear antics. More towards the middle of the state, on the outskirts of Appleton, a woman named Patty Gill experiences strange creatures between 1958 and 1968. She said it began when she was young and ill with rheumatic fever. Laying in bed, her and her mother heard a snarl, growl, slobber that was apparently disturbing to hear. They heard a large clamber over their fence and walk around their house. Their neighbors had similar experiences over a shocking period of 10 years. Gill reported that once, something hairy grabbed her car and shook it for 30 whole minutes. Gill's father went as far as to set up bear traps around the house. She states that the encounters were so frequent that many residents had loaded weapons ready. Encounters began in 1958, but slowed in frequency until they completely stopped in 1968. The residents of this particular Appleton suburb believe that the creatures moved on. In this particular instance, law enforcement thought the matter was a joke. Moving northwest to Price County, a much more rural and forested area, a hunter in a tree stand reported that he saw a dark figure walking along a ridge. I thought it was a shadow of a man walking, but the sun was not out. I previously saw 2 hunters who were wearing 100% blaze orange. This thing was all dark. I thought it was a landowner coming down to talk to me, but after disappearing behind some bushes I never saw it again. The distance between us was approximately 100 yards. I became uneasy when I heard loud sounds, like branches breaking in the forest, and decided to leave the area. Once the Beast of Bray Road became a household name, a man reported a story his father told him years before. That story occurred in 1936 at St. Coletta's Catholic Convent. The convent began as a school for the feeble-minded. That is Coletta's self-description, but in the 1930s. It was acting as a sanitarium. St. Coletta's is where the patriarch of the Kennedy clan had Rose Kennedy lobotomized, and subsequently held after the procedure turned her into an invalid. St. Coletta's night watchman, a man named Mark Shackleman, said that he encountered a man-sized werewolf digging on a Native American effigy mound on the property. Shackleman said that he was sure it was satanic, and that it didn't go away until he prayed. He also said it could speak in a human-like manner. He could not understand what it said, but he believes the creature entity identified itself as Gadara. It may be interesting to note that Gadara is also the name of a town in Jordan, which hosted one of the most famous incidents of healing in the New Testament, when Jesus released a group of unclean spirits from a man into a herd of pigs, the Gadarene swine, which charged off a cliff into the sea. Fast forward to last year. About an hour from the tree stand sighting, a 54-year-old investment advisor out duck hunting made a report to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. He witnessed what appeared to be a large, all-black, biped, moving swiftly through the peat bogs and knee-deep swampy muck.
Year, 2021. Season, fall. Month, October. Date, 10/17/21. State, Wisconsin. County, Vilas County. Location details, Powell Marsh, Manitowish Waters, Wisconsin. Investigator note. Here are the GPS coordinates for the rough location of where he was standing when he shot the photos and video. The figure was an undetermined distance to the southeast of his position, running away generally towards the southwest. 46.0839196, minus 89.91313363. Nearest town, Manitowish Waters. Nearest road, Highway 51. Observed, wanted to pass this by you as I was out duck hunting today 10/17/21 in north central Wisconsin. Powell Marsh area to be exact. This is a very remote marsh area surrounded by hundreds of thousands of acres of state and national forests. You can access this marsh zone via paths the Department of Natural Resources has to maintain water level, and people do watch migratory birds from a couple observation areas along road. I was more on a walk with the potential to jump shoot some puddle ducks, as you can see not a cloud around. Nor were there ducks. Not even sure it is a sighting, but seemed rather strange. Something told me to look behind me as I was going the opposite direction as the figure. After watching this object for a couple hundred yards, I decided to grab my cell phone. It is a long way away but appears black, large, and fast. We have bear, very few moose, wolves, and occasional elk around. Feel free to say it is a guy on a bike riding in the peat moss, or a guy on a four-wheeler in a prohibited motorized vehicle area. It appears to be bipedal and walking deeper into the swamp and the muck. It is hunting season, and I wouldn't expect a person to be dressed in all black in a public hunting area. I tried walking in it and turned back after about 5 feet. With naked eye I could see much better. The figure seemed to float as it moved across the swamp. Again a guy on a bike. After my hunt, I returned to the only 2 access areas to see if there were vehicles with bike racks or people out for a peat bog run. There was nobody around. I have been to the marsh countless times and have never seen something like this. Although the distance a bit far for video. Figure seems quite large. Clearly appears to be in muck. I have photos and video, but iPhone is a long way away and I am not an editing expert. I am sure video can be manipulated and enhanced. Further comments provide when he sent in the photos. Here are pics. Was hunting ducks in Powell Marsh, Wisconsin. Video I have problems getting to send but have it running through the muck. Any thoughts are welcome. Watched with naked eye for about 300 yards before I figured I should try to get some photos and video. The small road behind is the top of dikes running through the swamp. About 10 feet wide with deep water on the sides. Clearly in the marsh, not on the road. Of course I left my GoPro in the cabin, so I was stuck with an iPhone camera. Would be happy to say it is nothing, so I could hunt peacefully without thinking of this. Seems quite large. Was fast. And all black. Follow-up investigation report by Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization investigator Matthew Moneymaker. I spoke with this witness at length by phone. He is very credible. I cannot post his name because he is a senior investment advisor at the Madison, Wisconsin branch of one of the world's largest banks. He is 54 years old. Master's degree. Married, with 2 kids in college. He works in Madison but has a cabin within 5 miles of the sighting location. He has been hunting up there for more than 15 years, several times per year. Not always at the same location. And not always for the same type of game. He could not determine the height of the figure nor give a confident estimate for the distance. He could see that it was upright like a man, as the photos and video so clearly show. It definitely was not a deer or moose or bear. It was definitely either a human or a Sasquatch. He correctly surmised that it would be nearly impossible for a normal-sized human to run quickly through the swampy muck where it was running. It ran near a berm dike but then headed off at the same speed through knee-deep swampy muck. Skeptics like to say that Americans should be obtaining photos and videos in many areas because everyone has a smartphone. The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization has pointed out for years that people sometimes do get photos or videos with their smartphones. But the circumstances are rare. Circumstances where a Sasquatch is 1 out in the open, with basically no cover nearby. 2 out in daylight, so the situation does not require a night vision scope. 3 visible long enough for the witness to think about getting photos with a smartphone. Unlike during road crossing sightings. 4 far enough away so astonishment and fear does not prevent the witness from pulling out their smartphone. This incident in Wisconsin had all of those elements. In these rare circumstances where it happens, the figure is always small in the image or video because it is far away. When zoomed in, it becomes a blurry figure. Better than nothing but the best you can do with a smartphone. Unbeknownst to this witness, there are many stories about Sasquatch sightings among the nearby Lac du Flambeau Indians. There are also 5 other posted reports on the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization site for this county, Vilas. There are 72 counties in Wisconsin. Only 4 of them have more posted reports than Vilas County: Bayfield 6, Marinette 9, Winona 7, Price 7. There was no snow on the ground when this incident happened in October 2021. There is snow on the ground right now, December 2021. Therefore, this would be a very opportune place to fly a drone around at the moment, to look for this figure or its trackways. The trackways are distinctively linear with a long stride, unless the snow is very deep. Most Sasquatch trackways in snow will be very noticeable from a distance from the angle of a drone. If this figure is a Sasquatch, then its trackways will be, most likely, near the big stands of dense tree cover or brush in the area, especially a big cedar bog or thicket. That is the only option for escaping the cold winter winds of winter in this region. The deer will take shelter in the same types of thickets as well. This witness has agreed to answer questions about this incident on the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization 1995 group on Facebook after this report is posted there. He will address questions in the comments of the post. I will confirm which user is his profile. He will create a profile that will not reveal his identity publicly. His anonymous Facebook profile will allow a local journalist or 2 to contact him directly and potentially meet with him at the location, provided they do not reveal his name or the bank he works for in Madison. He will not do any spots for TV news, but he may be willing to discuss the incident on Wisconsin radio stations, not podcasts. The reason for the delay in posting this report. He submitted the report the day after the incident happened in October. A local Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization investigator reached out via email asking to arrange a phone call. For whatever reason, the witness didn't notice or reply to that email. Today, the witness emailed the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization and asked if we saw his report in October, and also asked how he could send us the photos and video. I replied to him today. He sent me the images today. Then I spoke to him and confirmed his identity. At the time this report was posted, the witness had not yet been able to send the original video. He will do that when his college-age daughter returns home and figures out how to do it. He has tried to send the moving video to me, but only the first frame comes through. He was able to successfully send a smartphone video of his iPad on which he plays a brief clip of the video. You can see a dark upright figure running through the swamp. See the link to that WAV file below the still photos above. It may take a moment for the video file to load. Be patient. He will post the original video in the comments section of the relevant post on the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization 1995 Facebook group in due time. I assume the original clip is longer. The witness was sure this running figure would have been able to see him, so it was likely fleeing away from him, toward the nearest tree cover to the south of his position. To see his position in Google Maps, copy these 2 numbers. The GPS coordinates, exactly as you see them below, separated by a comma, into the field where you would type in the location to look up. 46.0839196, minus 89.9131363.
Cynocephali are often mentioned by the early church fathers. In fact, one of the first saints was Saint Christopher, or Reprobus. He was said to be 7 to 8 feet tall, and part of his story is him asking God to grant him the ability to speak in the human tongue in order to further spread the word of Jesus. God grants him this request, and Saint Christopher is eventually martyred after swearing to never do battle again. He was a well-known mercenary before he learned of Jesus. There are also Scottish tales of the Wolver, who was also a Cynocephali but could not speak. He was benevolent and was known to show up when people were sick or died, and he would mourn for them or pray for their healing. He was known to leave fish as a gift to the afflicted. One more thing about the Cynocephali. They were neutral towards humans, and they viewed eating humans as abhorrent. Some stories mention benevolent Cynocephali going to battle against a malevolent one who captured humans, usually women and children, as the men would have obviously been killed. The only time Cynocephali sanctioned eating a human was if the human attacked first. They were known to be mostly morally righteous as a whole. My mind wants to believe in the Dogman, but my intelligence says it was likely misreporting of the Kurios tribes and their wearing of animal pelts.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember that all videos have been archived on the Odyssey page.